Cole pressed his hand against the cold glass of the observation window. Below him, the planet Prime slowly grew larger. Its surface was covered in shades of purple and silver. Tall crystal towers rose from the ground like frozen flames. Rivers of glowing blue water cut through valleys of strange trees. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. He was 28 years old. He had spent 6 years learning the language. He had read every book, watched every recording, and memorized every custom he could find. But nothing in those studies had prepared him for this moment. He was about to set foot on an alien world, a world that had built empires when humans still lived in caves. The ship shook gently as it entered the atmosphere, turned away from the window and walked toward the briefing room. His heart was beating fast. His palms were sweating. He wiped them on his uniform and tried to look calm. The briefing room was already full when he arrived. 11 other people sat around the long table. They were diplomats, scientists, and translators. The best minds Earth had to offer. And then he was the youngest. He was the lowest ranked. He was only here because he could speak better than anyone else on the planet. Ambassador Harper stood at the head of the table. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 30 years building peace between nations on Earth. Now she carried the weight of representing all of humanity. "Listen carefully," she said. Her voice was calm but serious. "They have ruled this part of the galaxy for 12,000 years. They have technology we cannot even imagine. They have relationships with dozens of other alien species, and they have agreed to let us attend the Festival of the Eternal Flame." She pressed a button, and a hologram appeared above the table. It showed the tall beings with long limbs and skin that changed colors like liquid metal. "Their skin shows their emotions," Harper continued. "Blue means surprise, violet means anger or contempt, gold means interest or approval, red means danger. Learn these colors, watch for them. They will tell you things their words will not." Already knew all of this, but he listened anyway. He noticed that some of the other delegates looked nervous. One woman, a scientist named Grace, was writing notes with shaking hands. "There are other species watching us," Harper said. They all want to know if humanity is worthy of joining the galactic community. One mistake tonight could set us back 50 years, or worse." She looked around the room. Her eyes stopped on for a moment. "Stay calm, be respectful, follow the customs, and whatever happens, do not cause trouble." Nodded along with everyone else. The ship landed with a soft thump. The doors opened and warm air rushed in. It smelled like flowers and metal and something else could not name. The delegation walked down the ramp in single file, was at the back. The landing platform was surrounded by guards. They were even taller in person than had imagined. Their skin was pale silver in the sunlight. They held weapons that looked like long staffs made of light. Beyond the guards could see the city. Crystal spires rose into the purple sky. Flying vehicles moved between the towers like silver fish swimming through water, and everywhere there were citizens watching them. Thousands of alien faces, all staring at the strange creatures from a distant star. Some of them looked curious. Their skin flickered with soft blue light. Others looked disgusted. Their skin turned dark purple as the humans walked past. Kept his head down and his hands at his sides. He tried to remember everything he had learned. In culture, direct eye contact with strangers was rude. Pointing was offensive. Speaking without being spoken to first was a sign of arrogance. They walked through the streets for nearly an hour. The crowd followed them the entire way, heard whispers in the language. "So small," someone said. "They smell strange," another voice added. "My father says they eat the flesh of animals," a young child said. "Is that true?" Pretended not to understand. It was easier that way. Finally, they reached the palace gates. The gates were massive, 200 feet tall and made of pure white crystal. They glowed with inner light as the delegation approached. An official stood before the gates. He wore robes of deep black, which knew meant he was a member of the imperial court. The official held a device that scanned each human as they passed. One by one, the delegates were approved. Ambassador Harper, Commander Leo Vance, the head of security, Grace, all the others. Then the official reached. The device made a different sound, a low tone that drew everyone's attention. "This one has no diplomatic rank," the official said. His skin flickered with pale violet. "He is not listed on the formal invitation. He cannot attend the banquet." Felt his stomach drop. 6 years of study, months of travel through space, and now he would be stopped at the gates. Ambassador Harper stepped forward. "He is part of our delegation. He serves as our cultural advisor and translator." "Your delegation was granted 11 seats," the official replied. "I count 12 bodies. One of you will remain outside." The other delegates shifted uncomfortably, could feel their eyes on him. He knew what they were thinking. He was the obvious choice to stay behind. He was the youngest, the least important. Harper opened her mouth to argue, but raised his hand slightly to stop her. He stepped forward and bowed. Not a quick bow, but a deep one. The bow of the old court, reserved for showing extreme humility before those of higher station. It was a gesture most did not even use anymore, but had found it in an ancient text and practiced it for months. "The fault is entirely mine," said Imperfect. His accent was flawless. His tone was properly respectful. "I did not wish to burden my people by refusing the honor of this journey. I will wait outside with gratitude. To have seen even this much of your beautiful world is more than I deserve." The official's skin rippled with surprise. A wave of pale blue spread across his face. For a long moment, no one spoke. The crowd behind them had grown silent. Even the other delegates seemed to be holding their breath. The official studied with new eyes. Then slowly he stepped aside. "You may enter," he said, "but you will find no seat waiting for you inside." Bowed again. "I expect none, thank you for your kindness." He walked through the gates with the rest of the delegation. His heart was pounding. His legs felt weak, but he kept his face calm and his steps steady. He was inside. Whatever happened next, he had made it this far. Behind him, he heard the official speaking quietly to one of the guards. "Did you hear him? He spoke the old tongue. He bowed like a scholar of the first dynasty." "Impossible," the guard replied. "He is just a human." "Yes," the official said. His skin was still flickering with blue. "That is what makes it interesting." Hall of Eternal Stars took his breath away. He had seen pictures in his research, but they were nothing compared to the real thing. The ceiling was made of pure transparent crystal. Through it, he could see the actual galaxy, millions of stars spinning slowly above them like diamonds on black velvet. The floor was polished white stone that reflected every light like a mirror. And the hall itself was enormous. It could have held 10,000 people easily. Tonight, it held about 3,000. Delegates from dozens of alien species filled the room. Saw the in their armor of black shell. He saw the small beings with 4 arms and large dark eyes. He saw the who looked almost human except for the gills on their necks and the webbing between their fingers. And everywhere the moved like silver ghosts, their skin changing colors as they talked and laughed and argued. The human delegation walked through the crowd in tight formation. Commander Vance kept his hand near his weapon. Ambassador Harper's face was perfectly calm, but could see the tension in her shoulders. The other species watched them pass. Some looked curious, most looked skeptical, a few looked openly hostile. "There," Harper said quietly, "that's our table." Followed her gaze to a small table near the edge of the hall. It was not a bad position, close enough to see the royal platform, far enough to avoid unwanted attention. There were chairs arranged around it. White chairs with high backs, designed for bodies but adjusted for human proportions. Counted them quickly, his heart sank. 11 chairs. There were 11 chairs. Harper noticed at the same moment. She turned to one of the attendants nearby. "There seems to be a mistake," she said. "We have 12 delegates, we need 12 seats." The attendant checked a small device in her hand. The invitation, 11 representatives from Earth. 11 seats were prepared. "But we have 12 people." "That is not my concern." The attendant's skin was a neutral gray. She did not care about human problems. "You may request additional seating from the Master of Ceremonies. He will be available after the feast begins." She walked away before Harper could respond. The delegates gathered around the table. Grace sat down heavily. Vance remained standing, his eyes scanning the crowd. The others looked at each other uncertainly. "I'll stand," said. "It's fine, I can." "Well, well," a cold voice interrupted. "The primitives have arrived." Turned, a male was approaching them. He was taller than the others, dressed in robes of deep purple trimmed with gold. His skin shimmered with violet light, contempt. Behind him walked a group of courtiers, their faces amused. Recognized him immediately from his research. Prince Aura, the eldest son of the Emperor, the heir to the throne of the Empire. The prince stopped a few feet from the human table. His courtiers spread out behind him like a wall. "It seems the humans cannot count," said loudly. Heads turned throughout the hall. Conversation stopped. Or perhaps they hoped to smuggle in an extra primitive when no one was looking. Harper stepped forward. "Your Highness, there has been a simple misunderstanding regarding our seating arrangements. We meant no disrespect." "No disrespect." The prince's skin darkened further. "You bring an unregistered guest into the sacred hall of eternal stars. You crowd around your table like animals at a feeding trough, and you say this is no disrespect." The hall had grown very quiet now. Thousands of eyes were watching the confrontation. Could see other delegates from other species leaning forward with interest. Some were smiling. They were enjoying this. Understood what was happening. The prince did not actually care about the seating problem. He was using it as an opportunity to humiliate the humans, to show the other species that humanity was not worthy of respect. If Harper argued back, she would look aggressive. If she apologized too much, she would look weak. There was no good answer. Stepped forward before he could stop himself. "Your Highness," he said he bowed deeply, the same bow from the gates. "The fault is mine alone. I was not formally invited. I came because I have spent my life studying your great culture, and I could not bear to miss this moment. My greed for knowledge has embarrassed my people and insulted your house." He straightened but kept his eyes lowered. "I will leave immediately, and I will carry the memory of your magnificent hall for the rest of my days. The floor of the Empire is higher than any throne on Earth." A ripple went through the crowd. Had used an ancient phrase, one that had not been spoken in formal settings for 300 years. It was a declaration of absolute humility, once used by common citizens when addressing the first emperors. Skin flickered with surprise despite his anger. "You speak our language." "Badly, I am sure," replied, "but I have tried." "And you know the old phrases." "Only a few. I found them in a book written during the Third Dynasty. I do not know if I pronounced them correctly." The prince stared at him for a long moment. His skin was still violet, but there were traces of blue now. Confusion, interest. Before he could respond, a new voice rang out across the hall. "He will not leave." The crowd parted. A female walked toward them. She was smaller than the prince, younger, with skin that glowed soft gold. She wore simple white robes without decoration, but she carried herself like she owned the room. Princess Aura, the youngest child of the emperor, had read about her too. She was known for her intelligence, her curiosity, and her habit of defying court traditions. "Sister," said through clenched teeth, "this does not concern you." "Everything in this hall concerns me, brother." Stopped beside and studied him with large silver eyes. "You spoke the phrase of humble distance. Do you know the last time someone used those words in this hall? Shook his head. Neither do I, she said, because it has been so long that no one remembers. She turned to face her brother. This human has honored our ancestors more in 2 sentences than most of our court has in 2 centuries. He is still uninvited. He still has no seat. Then he will take mine, extended her hand toward. Her skin was bright gold now, the color of sincere interest, of genuine welcome. I have an empty place beside me at the royal table. Sit with me. The hall erupted in whispers. A human, at the royal table, it was unheard of. Looked at her hand. In culture, this gesture meant equality of spirit. It was an invitation between peers, not between a princess and a stranger. He looked at Ambassador Harper. She gave a tiny nod. Took the princess's hand. Thank you, he said. You honor me beyond words. Smiled. It was a small expression, barely visible but real. Come, she said. Let us see what other interesting things you know. She led him away from his delegation, away from the furious prince, toward the raised platform where the royal family sat, walked beside her through the silent crowd. He could feel 3,000 pairs of eyes on his back. And for the first time since landing on this planet, he was not afraid. The royal table was different from the others. It sat on a raised platform of white crystal, elevated above the rest of the hall. From here could see everything, the thousands of guests, the servers moving between tables, the guards standing at every door, and above it all the galaxy itself spinning slowly through the transparent ceiling. The emperor sat at the center of the table. He was old even by standards. His skin was pale silver, almost white, and it barely changed colors at all. His eyes, though, were sharp and dark. They watched everything. Prince sat to the emperor's right, his skin still dark with anger. He had not looked at since the confrontation. Other members of the royal family filled the remaining seats, cousins, aunts, advisors. They all stared at with open curiosity. Guided him to a chair beside hers. It was too tall for him, designed for bodies, but he managed to sit without looking too awkward. You are the first human to sit at this table, she said quietly. Try not to spill anything. Almost laughed, almost. I will do my best. The feast began. Servants brought dishes did not recognize, strange fruits, glazed meats, soups that glowed with soft light. He ate carefully, watching how the others used their utensils, copying their movements. Watched him with amusement. You learn quickly. I have too, he replied. I have spent my whole life catching up. Catching up to what? Gestured at the hall around them. To all of this. Your people built starships while mine were still figuring out how to grow wheat. You mapped the galaxy while we were arguing about whether the sun went around the Earth. We are very, very far behind. And yet here you are. Her skin flickered with soft gold. Sitting at our table, speaking our language, that is not nothing. It is a start, agreed, just a small one. They ate in silence for a while. Around them, conversations hummed. The emperor spoke quietly with an advisor, argued with a cousin about some political matter. The other guests in the hall laughed and talked and celebrated. Finally turned to him again. Tell me about your world, she said. Not the facts in our databases. Tell me what it feels like to live there. Thought for a moment. Have you ever seen rain? No, we have climate control. Water falls only in designated agricultural zones. On Earth, it falls everywhere, sometimes without warning. You can be walking down a street on a warm day and suddenly the sky opens up and water pours down on you. It soaks your clothes. It runs down your face. It makes everything smell clean and new. Skin shimmered with colors could not identify. That sounds chaotic. It is. That is what I love about it, he smiled. My grandmother used to say that rain was the sky crying because it was so happy. She would stand in her garden during storms and lift her face up to feel the drops. She said it reminded her that the world was bigger than her problems. Your grandmother sounds wise. She died when I was 12, but I still remember standing in the rain with her. The princess was quiet for a moment. We do not have grandmothers in the way you do. Our family units are different. Children are raised by the collective, not by individual elders. Do you miss it, having someone who is just yours? Skin flickered with something like sadness. I do not know, I cannot miss what I have never had. She paused. But sometimes when I read about other species, their families, their bonds, I wonder what it would be like. Nodded, he understood that feeling, the longing for something you could not name. Can I ask you something? He said. You may ask anything. Why did you help me? Back there with your brother, you did not have to do that. Looked out at the hall. Her skin settled into a thoughtful shade of blue-green. Because I am tired of watching my people look down on others. We have been powerful for so long that we have forgotten what it was like to be young, to struggle, to hope. She turned back to him. When you spoke those old words, I saw something I had not seen in centuries. Humility without weakness. Respect without fear. It was refreshing. Or maybe you just wanted to annoy your brother. She smiled, a real smile this time, wide enough to show her teeth. That was also a consideration. They both laughed, heads turned at the sound. A human and a princess, laughing together at the royal table, could feel the weight of their attention, but he did not care. The other elder species think humans are dangerous, said, her voice low now. They say you spread too quickly, that you adapt too aggressively. They worry you will upset the balance we have maintained for thousands of years. Are they wrong? I do not know, she studied his face. What I do know is that the balance they speak of is not peace. It is stagnation. Nothing has changed in the galaxy for 3,000 years. The same empires, the same alliances, the same fears. Perhaps change would not be such a bad thing. Chose his next words carefully. My people have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt each other. We have damaged our own world. We are not perfect. No species is perfect. But we keep trying. He met her silver eyes. That is what we do. We fail and we get back up. We make mistakes and we learn from them. We look at the stars and we dream of reaching them, even when everyone tells us it is impossible. And now you have reached them. Yes, and we are not going to stop. He leaned forward slightly. I think that is what scares the elder species. Not that we are dangerous, but that we are hopeful. We have not learned yet what is supposed to be impossible. We have not been around long enough to become cynical. Stared at him for a long moment. Her skin cycled through colors he could not read, gold, green, silver, blue. Finally, it settled on a warm amber shade. I think I understand now, she said softly, why my father agreed to invite your kind here. Why? Because we need you. She looked out at the hall full of ancient, powerful, unchanging species. We have forgotten how to dream. We have forgotten how to hope. And perhaps a young species full of hope is exactly what this old galaxy needs. Before could respond, a commotion at the entrance drew everyone's attention. The delegation was rising from their table. Their leader, a massive creature with armored plating and sharp mandibles, was pointing directly at the human delegation. This is an insult, he roared, his voice carrying across the entire hall. We demand the humans be removed immediately. The hall fell silent and realized that the real test was just beginning. The ambassador was enormous. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his body covered in black armored plates that clicked and scraped as he moved. His eyes were compound orbs of red that reflected the light like burning coals. Behind him, a dozen warriors rose from their seats, their mandibles clicking with aggression. This is an insult, the ambassador repeated. His voice was like rocks grinding together. The place primitives at the royal table while warriors of the Dominion are seated in the outer ring. We have fought beside your empire for 6,000 years. We have bled for your causes, and you honor these pink-skinned animals over us. The hall had gone completely silent. 3,000 beings from dozens of species watched the confrontation with hungry eyes. This was what they had come for realized. Not the feast, not the celebration. They had come to see drama, conflict, weakness. At the human table, Commander Vance had risen to his feet. His hand rested on his sidearm. Ambassador Harper placed a gentle hand on his arm, keeping him still. Looked at the Emperor. The old had not moved. His skin remained that pale, unreadable silver. He was watching, waiting, testing. Prince leaned forward with interest. His skin flickered with something like satisfaction. He wanted this to go badly for the humans. He wanted to be proven right about them. Skin had turned a pale, worried gray. "This is not good," she whispered too. "They are looking for any excuse to break their alliance with us, if they leave the festival in anger. It could start a war," finished. "Yes." The ambassador took a step toward the royal platform. His warriors followed, their armored feet shaking the floor. "I demand an answer," he bellowed. "Why do humans sit at the table of kings while heroes eat with common merchants?" The emperor still did not speak. His silence was deliberate. He was forcing others to handle this problem, to see how they would respond. Harper stood up at the human table. Her voice was calm and clear. "Ambassador, we meant no disrespect to the Dominion. Our seating was arranged by our hosts. We are only guests here." "Then leave." The pointed one clawed hand at the door. "Take your seats at the outer ring where you belong, and we will take your place at the royal table." "That is not our decision to make." "Then I will make it for you." The ambassador turned to address the entire hall. "Any species that wishes to challenge thee is welcome to try. Our empire was built on the bodies of our enemies. We do not fear primitives who only learned to leave their planet 100 years ago." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some species looked nervous, others looked excited. The delegation was already whispering among themselves. They had stopped eating entirely, their large eyes fixed on the drama unfolding before them. Understood what was happening. There was not just challenging the humans. He was challenging the Emperor. He was testing whether they would back down to save face. If they did, they would have proven that the great empire was weak. And humans would be caught in the middle. Stood up. Grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" "I do not know yet," he admitted, "but someone has to do something." He stepped down from the royal platform. The crowd parted around him as he walked toward the ambassador. His heart was pounding so hard he could feel it in his throat. The ambassador looked down at him with contempt. "The animal speaks for itself now. How amusing." "I speak only for myself," said. He used the greeting, a series of clicking sounds he had learned from old recordings. The ambassador's compound eyes widened slightly. "I apologize for any offense my presence has caused you." "You know our language." "Only a little. Your tongue is beautiful but difficult. I have been trying to learn it for 2 years." The ambassador's mandibles clicked with surprise. Around them, the crowd was watching with new interest. A human who spoke, that was unexpected. "I was not placed at the royal table by the," continued. "Princess honored me with her invitation. If my presence has caused discord between your great dominion and the empire, I will leave. The harmony between your peoples is more important than one human's comfort." He bowed not in the style but in the manner. A bow between warriors, showing respect without submission. The ambassador stared at him for a long moment. His compound eyes seemed to be searching for something. "You will give up your seat?" he asked. "Yes, even though it is an honor your species has never received before." "My species does not need honors, we need friends," straightened. "They are the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Your history is written in courage and blood. When humanity takes its place among the stars, we would rather have you as allies than enemies." The ambassador's mandibles clicked again. This time the sound was different, less aggressive, more thoughtful. You are not what I expected, he said finally. I hope that is not a bad thing. Before the ambassador could respond, a voice rang out from the royal platform. The human has spoken well. Everyone turned. The emperor had finally risen from his seat. He was older and more frail than had expected, but his presence filled the room like cold water. He has shown humility without groveling, respect without fear. The emperor's silver eyes swept across the hall. He has honored with knowledge of their customs. He has honored my house with knowledge of ours, and he has offered to sacrifice his place of honor to preserve peace between nations. The emperor stepped down from the platform. The crowd parted before him like waves before a ship. That, the emperor said, stopping in front of the ambassador, is more than I can say for you. The ambassador's posture changed. His aggression faded, replaced by something like uncertainty. Your Majesty, you have come into my hall and demanded that I rearrange my table to suit your pride. You have threatened my guests and disrupted my festival. You have embarrassed your dominion in front of every species in this sector. The emperor's skin flickered with pale red, danger, warning. The human spoke with humility. My daughter spoke with conviction, and you, ambassador, have spoken with neither. He gestured to the guards along the walls. Escort the delegation to their ship. Their invitation to future festivals is under review. The ambassador's compound eyes went wide. Your Majesty, please. This discussion is over. The guards moved forward. The warriors looked at their ambassador, waiting for orders. For a moment, thought there might be violence. The entire hall seemed to hold its breath. Then the ambassador lowered his head. As you command, he said quietly. The delegation was led out of the hall in silence. The doors closed behind them with a heavy boom. The emperor turned too. His ancient eyes studied the young human like a scientist examining a new specimen. You, he said, come with me, we have much to discuss. Looked back at, she nodded, her skin glowing with soft gold. He followed the emperor out of the hall, leaving 3,000 stunned faces behind him. The emperor's private chamber was smaller than expected. No crystal towers or glowing walls here, just a simple room with a single window looking out at the stars. Old books lined the walls, real books, made of paper and leather, the kind that had only seen in museums back on Earth. The emperor sat in a plain chair by the window. Without his robes and his guards and his platform, he looked almost ordinary, just an old man tired from a long life. Sit, he said, gesturing to a chair across from him. We do not need formality here. Sat, his hands were still shaking slightly from everything that had happened in the hall. You handled that well, the emperor said. They have been looking for an excuse to challenge our alliance for decades. You gave them nothing to hold on to. I just told the truth. Yes, that is what made it so effective. The emperor studied him with those ancient silver eyes. My advisors tell me that humans are dangerous. They show me your wars, your weapons, your capacity for destruction. They say we should keep your kind at a distance. Let you prove yourselves over centuries before we accept you as equals. Said nothing. He could not argue with the facts. Human history was violent and messy and cruel. But tonight I saw something different, the emperor continued. I saw a young species that has not yet learned to hide its heart. You came into my hall with nothing, no army, no technology, no great history to protect you. And instead of trying to pretend you were more than you are, you simply were who you are, humble, curious, hopeful. We have had to be, said quietly. We have spent our whole existence looking up at the stars and wondering if we were alone. Now we know we are not. And we know that we are very, very small compared to the beings who live up there. Does that frighten you? Sometimes, but mostly it makes me want to learn, to understand, to be better than we have been. The emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he reached into his robe and pulled out a small crystal disc. Do you know what this is? Shook his head. It is a communication seal, a direct line to my personal network. Only 12 beings in the entire galaxy have one. He held it out to, now there will be 13. Stared at the disk. Your Majesty, I am not a diplomat, I am not important, I am just a translator. You are more than that now. The Emperor pressed the disk into his hand. When you return to Earth, tell your leaders this. The Empire acknowledges humanity. We will watch you. We will guide you where we can. And when you are ready, truly ready, we will welcome you as equals. His throat felt tight. He could not find words. Go now, the Emperor said. My daughter is waiting for you, and I am very tired. Stood and bowed, the deep bow of the old court. But this time the Emperor raised his hand. No, not that bow, not anymore. He smiled slightly. Between equals, we simply nod. Nodded, the Emperor nodded back. Then walked out of the chamber and back into the light. The festival continued for 3 more days. Spent most of that time with. She showed him the gardens where her ancestors had planted seeds from their original trees that had been growing for 10,000 years. She took him to the library where the first scholars had recorded their knowledge, shelves of crystal books stretching into the darkness like an endless forest. In return, he taught her things too. He showed her how to fold paper into a bird, origami, he called it. He taught her a song his grandmother used to sing, about sailors on the sea looking up at the stars. Her voice was strange and beautiful when she tried to hum along. On the final morning, the human delegation gathered at the landing platform. The horizon's edge waited for them, its engines already warming. The purple sky of Prime stretched above them like a ceiling made of amethyst. Ambassador Harper approached. The Emperor asked me to give you a new title. You are now officially the cultural ambassador of Earth to the Empire. She paused. You have also been given diplomatic immunity in 17 star systems and a permanent invitation to every imperial function for the rest of your life. Blinked, I do not understand. Neither do I entirely, Harper smiled, a rare expression on her serious face. But I know better than to question an emperor. The other delegates filed onto the ship one by one. Grace stopped to shake's hand. Commander Vance gave him a nod of respect. Soon, only remained on the platform. And then arrived. She walked toward him alone, without guards or attendants. Her skin glowed with soft amber light. You are leaving, she said. I have to. My world needs to know what happened here. I know, she stopped in front of him. I wanted to give you something before you go. She pressed a small object into his palm. It was a crystal, about the size of his thumb, that pulsed with inner light. This is a memory stone, she explained. It contains everything I know about culture, our history, our language, our customs, our beliefs. I have been adding to it since I was a child. Now I give it to you. This is too much. I cannot take something so personal. You can, and you will. Her silver eyes met his. When humanity is ready to take its place among the stars, I want you to help them understand who we are, and I want you to help us remember who we were. Closed his fingers around the crystal. He could feel it humming with warmth, with life, with thousands of years of accumulated knowledge. I will, he promised. I will carry this with me always. I know you will, she smiled, a real smile like the one she had given him at the banquet. And the next time you attend a royal function, I will make sure there is a seat for you, a proper one at the front with your name on it. He laughed. The sound echoed across the empty platform. I would like that. Good, then do not make me wait too long. She reached out and touched his hand, the same gesture she had made in the hall, the gesture of equality between spirits. Goodbye, Cole. Give my regards to your grandmother's garden. She would have liked you, he said. She always said the best people were the ones who could laugh at themselves. Then I will practice laughing more, she stepped back. Safe travels, human. May the stars carry you gently home. Bowed, not the deep bow of humility, but the small nod between equals. Then he walked up the ramp and into the ship. As the horizon's edge lifted off, and the purple sky gave way to black, Harper found at the observation window. "You know that crystal is probably worth more than our entire ship," she said. "Probably. And you know you have just become the most important person in Earth's diplomatic corps." He looked at her. "I thought I was the lowest-ranking member of the delegation." "Not anymore," she smiled again, "not by a long distance." She walked away, leaving alone with the stars. He looked down at the memory stone in his hand. It pulsed gently, like a heartbeat, full of secrets and stories waiting to be told. Below him, Prime grew smaller and smaller, until it was just another point of light among millions. But knew that nothing would ever be the same. Humanity had found its seat at the table. They had been tested and they had not broken. They had shown the galaxy what they were made of, not power, not technology, but hope. Stubborn, foolish, beautiful hope. And they were just getting started.